Hey, my name is Samar. I also go by Sam or First Time Panner. And as you know, you can call me any of those that you like. This will be my, we're in March. This will be my March No Pan Left Behind update. And if you don't know what this is about, basically, I'm trying to use every single, Rosie's about to jump on my bed. I'm trying to use every single pan of eyeshadow in my entire collection this year at least once. So every month I have a little group of palettes that I want to use No Pan Left Behind style on top of all of my other projects. She's coming, she's lurking, she's here. So anyway, don't mind Rosie, but I will talk about all of the palettes that I've used in February and then introduce the palettes that I'll be using in March. What do you want to do? Come on, baby, time is money. Oh. Okay, she has decided she wants to be on my lap. Surprise, surprise. The first palette that I'll talk about is the palette that's on my eyes right now for my final use and the use needed to complete this palette. And that's the ABH Marvina palette. And of course there's like fur stuck to this somehow, even though I always keep it in like the sleeve. I don't know how that happens. This is what this palette looks like as if you haven't seen it 10,000 times before. And what I'm wearing on my eyes right now, I'll also have a picture of it on the screen, but what I'm wearing on my eyes right now is I have Passion all over my entire eye. Then I have Drama, the dark purple shimmer. It's not too shimmery, but the dark purple shimmer in my outer corner, and then I have this gold shade Summer on top of my lid. So that was the last use I needed for this palette. And I kind of, like you'll see in the next palette I mentioned, but I kind of planned out all of my looks with this palette and then the Fairy Tale Forest palette, so I kind of use them in conjunction. I can never say that word. I did have pretty much every single look that I've done in the past 2 weeks planned out, so I did kind of like design this look in my head and I really like the way it turned out. But yeah, I really enjoyed using this palette. You saw me use this for the first time in this project during my Valentine's Day Get Ready With Me, because I did do a Valentine's Day look with this palette. And yeah, I did of course other looks with this palette that I'll hopefully have on the screen if I can remember like which palette I use for which look, because sometimes they did end up looking quite similar when I use like similar shades from palettes. But yeah, I really enjoyed using this palette. Apart from and you saw this in the Valentine's Day Get Ready With Me as well, so I'll link that down below. But I did have a lot of problems with this lighter purple shimmer, the shade Celestial. That was the only shade that gave me trouble, but it gave me a lot of trouble and I really don't like that one, which is a shame because it's a really pretty color and one that I don't really have at all in my collection despite having so many purples. So that was a bummer. The only other the only other shade that I didn't really enjoy using was this shade Base, which is like an off-white satin. It's just not my shade. It's way too light for me to even use as like a lid setting shade, and it's not the right color for me to be using as an inner corner highlight, so it's just not my favorite. But other than that, I absolutely love this entire palette so much. I would say Soul, the periwinkle, it's a satin, so as a lot of satins usually do, as I've noticed, it does give me a bit of trouble blending out, but as long as I'm very careful when using it, then I can use it just fine. And I really like the shade. I did a really nice, in my opinion, I did a really nice look with this shade Soul and then another shade from my Fairy Tale Forest, and I wore it with this like powder blue sweater that I had, and I got so many compliments on my eyeshadow that day. So yeah, I just love this palette so much. This was my my palette I was considering for Pan That Palette the last 2 years in a row, and I honestly think trying it again and loving it so much that this might just have to be the focus of some project in the future. The neutral shimmers in here, so not the dark purple and then not the lighter purple, but all of the neutral shimmers in here and then the pink one are absolutely beautiful. They still have full impact and I really enjoyed using them. And then the neutral mattes as well. I mean, I like the matte passion on my eyes too, but the neutral mattes are so pigmented and easy to work with that I feel like I would love using this as a pan that palette, because I just like it reignited the love that I have for this. So as I mentioned, the next palette that I'll talk about is Fairy Tale Forest that I used. Not every single look that I did with this palette was together with the Norvina, but a lot of them were, and I literally have the card that I planned out all of my open, so I was just like keeping the card in here, but I literally have the card where I planned out all of my looks with this palette and the Norvina palette together or separately. So that's how like crazy I am. And then on the other side I have the chart where I tracked which shades I was using, because this one is like, in my opinion, this is a bigger palette, so I wanted to make sure I was checking everything off when I used it so I didn't forget. But yeah, this is what the Fairy Tale Forest looks like. I have the shade names on here, but I'm not even gonna say them because I don't want to have to keep looking back and forth. But this like pink to gold duochrome was the one that I used on top of Soul, and it was so pretty. And just like every other look that I did with this palette, I absolutely loved. And I did accidentally dig my finger into this shade while I was trying to open the palette one day. Luckily it didn't like shatter or anything. It's still intact, so I'm happy about that. But I just love this palette so much. There was one look that I did, I mentioned it previously as like my go-to purple look with this palette. Sorry, my eyelashes are sticking together. But it's with this purple matte, and then this purple shimmer, and I topped it with one of my Terra Moon singles, Karina Nebula. It was really pretty. I honestly think I should have probably just worn these alone so that you could see the look with just those shades in the palette on their own, because they are really, really pretty. But you know, whatever. I topped it with a different shade and I still really like the way it looked. I finally was able to use this entire palette, because even though I had used this a decent amount, I hadn't even used the entire palette yet, so I got to know it a lot better. So like all five, these three, and then these two right here, they're all gold. And before, I used to be like really annoyed by that, because I was like, what's the point of even having 5 different golds in a palette? And while I still believe that they could have taken at least one of these out of here, having to use all of them in like different looks really showed me the differences between each of them. This gold called Enchanted, it is so beautiful as a one and done shadow. There was a look that I did, it was literally just Enchanted all over my top lid and then a red lip, and it was so beautiful. That shadow, it looks like it's just gold in the pan, but it actually has some dimension to it and like some slightly red undertones and like in the base of the shadow. So, and it only showed up like at certain angles, so it looks so beautiful and natural, and like it literally is the perfect name. It just like enchanted on my eyes, and I felt like, as the name suggests, I felt like a little golden fairy, and it looked so stunning, but it was like such an effortless look. So the official name of this palette is the Sephora Playlist Disco Diva, and it's just from Sephora collection. And you know, as I showed you when I was introducing this, it's just an all purple palette. All the purples in here, well, this one is just like a brown, but every other shade is a purple, and all of them have different undertones, which I think is really cool. And it only took me a few uses to use this palette, and I really enjoyed it when I did. This is like purple neutrals basically. Like you could, or at least I could, wear this to work and not feel self-conscious about my makeup at all. Not saying that anyone should feel self-conscious about wearing makeup, but I just don't like when people look at me, so I don't really like to wear super bold makeup to work. So I feel like I could wear this to work and be perfectly fine, because it's a lot more muted and it leans more neutral. Hi. Okay, she wants me to pet her. So I really enjoyed using this palette, and I'm really glad to have this in my collection. Sephora should keep these palettes as like permanent ranges But I mean, I feel like I'm gonna keep saying this. I'm really glad I got to use it and got to remember how much I love this palette. So I'm happy about that. And then my Melt Cosmetics Brunette palette. Oh, sorry, that's bright. This was a brand new palette to me when I put it in this project. I bought it toward the end of last year, I believe, but I had never used it. So I mean, I already talked about the packaging, so I'm not gonna go on again, but I love it. Again, this is what it looks like, and it only took me 2 uses to use this entire palette. I did one like subtle everyday look, and then I did while still neutral, because the whole palette's neutral, I did like a bolder kind of like antique golden look, and I combined these 2 shimmers as I expected and made a really nice shade together. So I feel like going forward, that's probably how I'll get most of my use out of this palette. It is not the most versatile, as you can see. It is just a plain old brown, mostly brown neutral palette. So you can't do much with it, but what you can do with it is very beautiful neutral everyday looks, and I'm happy that I own this. That being said, let's talk about the palettes that I have in for March. The first one I'll talk about is no stranger to this channel. That's my Sephora Playlist Blues Beauty palette. This was in the same collection as, or like the same line as the Disco Diva. They're like both playlist palettes. So this is the purple one, and this was supposed to be the blue neutral one, but as you know, if you've ever watched my channel before, I took out the blue shimmer, so we just have browns. And I'm totally fine with that. I love this palette even more now than when it had the blue in it, because the blue wasn't great. And I actually used this palette yesterday, even though it wasn't even in a project at the time, because this palette is just so useful. I think this is, not only can you do, I mean, you've heard me talk about this palette so much, but I'm going to talk about it again. Not only can you do individual looks with this palette because it has both mattes and shimmers, but you can, the way I use it mostly is as a companion palette, because you have like pretty much every cool toned brown you would need to do a cool tone look. So I really like using this as like, if I need just one extra shade for the look I'm doing, I'll reach into this, or if I want to do like a quick look with some of the mattes in here and then throw on a single shadow, this is also great for that. So I really love this palette so much, and I'm excited to use it. I also am extremely close to pan on this lightest, well, this is the lightest, but I just use this for lid setting. But this lightest brown shade here, I'm so close to pan. Secretly, not so secretly anymore, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to hit pan in that shade and be able to show you a nice pan for the next update. That's honestly kind of why I put it into this project now in March instead of, I was originally planning on putting this in for December because I've been using it so much lately, but I just really want to hit another pan, so I'm putting it in the project now. I think I can do it. But the next palette is my Kaleido Sashimi City palette. I am so excited to use this. These are the shades, and I'm sure you already know what this looks like, and I know I've talked about this plenty of times because this is one of my favorite palettes in my entire collection, even though it's one of the most basic palettes in my collection. But anyway, this is only going to take me 1 use to use all the pans, because every time I use this, I use every single shade in here to create the same look. But that's because it is the most beautiful look ever. Every time I do it, I get so many compliments from like everyone, like friends, coworkers, strangers. People just compliment my eyeshadow every time I wear this because it is such a beautiful palette. And I'm so sorry for talking about this because I don't think you can get it anymore, but this is just the dealio. What can I say? So this is only going to take me 1 look to use all the pans, but I'm still putting it in this project because I can, and I'm really excited to use this. Okay, things might have shifted. I had to go drop off my rent, but I'm back, and I think I was talking about the Sashimi City palette, and I'm actually gonna swatch it for you. I'm just gonna swatch the shimmers because they're so pretty. Okay, so that gold shimmer is called Penthouse, and look, it's like, just look. And then this one, which is my favorite, is called Pink Ginger, and I love to layer these two. They're so pretty together. They're just like stunning. And then while I'm swatching, I swatched Enchanted, so this is what it looks like, and it's harder to see the like red base in there because my hand is a lot more flat than my eye is, but it is so pretty. And then this is a swatch of that like pink to gold shade that I did or that I put on top of Soul. And now swatching the last palette that I'll have in my March No Pan Left Behind is my Huda Beauty Naughty Nude. I always say Huda, but I think it's Huda. But again, you know what this palette looks like. It's nothing new, but it is fairly new to me. I'm trying to make it so that there's no glare, but there might be, sorry. But I bought this in the second half of 2023, and I didn't use it until I put it into my Old New Gifted Blue project for No Pan Left Behind in like the end of 2023. And then I also used one of the shades in here for my Valentine's Day look, where I just did like a pink neutral matte and then a red lip. So I'll actually throw that picture up on the screen if I still have it, just so you can see. And this is the reason I only have 4 palettes in this month, because this again is a large palette, just like the Fairy Tale Forest. It has 18 shades. So I want to give myself like at least a chance of hitting all the shades that I need to this month. And I'm just really excited to use this. Even though I've used this so much in the past few months, I want to use it again. The quality of this palette is just outstanding. The shades are really beautiful. I did take out, as you can see, I took out that slippery shade just because I felt like I was never going to use a gloss, and I didn't want it to go bad and like spread mold in the palette. So technically only 17 shades, but yeah, I'm really excited to use this, and maybe I'll swatch a few. I really do love her marbled shades, so this one and then that one right there. I'm running out of space, but this is like that purplish one, Passion, and then this one is the pinker one, Provocative. They're so pretty. And then this one is Irresistible, and this one is Please Me. Please Me is like such a great neutral everyday shimmer that also is like punchy. This palette is like just the perfect palette for someone who loves neutrals but also wants to make like an impact with their eyeshadow, which is me. I mean, I do also love, you know, greens and purples and blues and oranges and everything else, but I just like, there's something about a neutral look that just feels, you know, like it makes you feel so good, especially when it's like, I don't know, it just makes you feel glamorous. Okay, I was totally lying. I forgot one of the palettes. Totally forgot to talk about it. That is my Marvelous Mauves palette from Dose of Colors, and this is just a 5-pan all matte mauve palette. So there's not much to say about it, but I am excited to use this because the last time I used this was in 2022. Actually, I think it was like April of 2022, so it's been nearly 2 years since I've used this, but I do remember the look that I did, and I remember loving this palette. Dose of Colors always has really great quality, and the colors in here are really pretty, so I'm excited to pull this out again, especially for spring. I think, even though these are mauves and not like lilacs, I think this is like a beautiful palette for spring, and I really want to pull it out while it is still spring. And I am planning on using this with some purple eyeshadow sticks that I also need to get use on, so the fact that it's all matte is no problem for me at all. And in fact, I am planning on bringing the Marvelous Mauves and the Blues Beauty with me to my trip that I'm taking this month, so I'll definitely be able to hit my goal very easily on these. I'll also be able to hit my goal very easily on the Kaleidos palette because it's just one use. So pretty much the only thing that's going to take time is the Naughty Nude palette, but I'm not worried about that at all because I love using it so much, so I'm sure I'll gravitate toward it anyway. But that is the update for, I guess, February and March for my No Pan Left Behind project. Thank you so much for watching. I really love doing this project. I feel like I'm using, even though I'm not making stupendous progress on all of my projects in general, I feel like I'm using a larger amount of products in my collection than I ever have before. So I'm really enjoying the projects that I'm doing this year so much, and I just want to thank everyone for your support, and let me know if you want to see any of these palettes featured in Get Ready With Me. But other than that, I will just have to see you in my next video, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.